Hey,
What's up, man? Oh, I got a little something for y'all though.
Oh,
Welcome to South Harmon. Hey, welcome to South Harmon. We glad you here today. Another AMA. Ask me anything. Super chat is cool if you wanna pay to play. Like and subscribe, that's what we really appreciate. Let me introduce you to the tear down king. Mike McNutted, ask your questions, he'll answer anything. ATM, you know Adam, put them graphics on the screen. Glad you tapped in now, stay tapped in for the team. Hey, everything is posted.
oh, that's a little preview.
Just a little, just a little fizzle intro. I can't give you the whole thing this week. Just a little taste, man. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing, man? We got a guest in the building. This is fun, man. Let's go.
What's up, Thomas Tipple? Fantasy points. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, we vibing. We ready. I'm locked in for football, baby. AMA. Ask me anything. Let's go.
Let's get it.
It's so weird how this came about too, right? You and I mean, we've been in this league a couple years now, and we just happened to make a trade, and we had somebody who wanted to chirp, right? So we started DMing back and forth, making fun of the chirper.
You have to do that, right? Like, it's you guys, and I'm gonna start off hot. Also, shout out everyone for
Let's go.
Shout out to you guys reaching out and getting me on here. This is gonna be a good time. You guys almost hit that trade perfectly from my end.
Boom.
I reached out as soon as I got the clip. I reached out. I was like, that was so close to perfect. That was awesome. But you know what I love about leagues and dynasty leagues is when you do a trade and somebody wants to have you use the Thanos time stone to go back in time so they can offer you 3 firsts for that player. Like there's nothing better than getting. I would have paid so much more.
They always say that, right?
It's funny. We get Monday morning quarterback even in fantasy, man.
So we didn't talk about that part on the trade show, right? But Thomas hit me up and he was like, this dude said he would have paid 3 firsts for Stephon Diggs alone. And I said, all right, fucking bet. So I went and I offered Stephon Diggs to him for 3 firsts, and then you get the whole laundry list of excuses. Like, nah, I meant for both of them. I'm sure.
He must be disappointed. He said he can't wait to tune into the episode to hear how I just got absolutely hosed. So that guy's probably
go for him. Fizzle is out here just continuously dropping heat.
Yep.
If you listen to the Waiver Wire pod on Tuesday, Eric put out
a
new intro made by Fizzle. You listen to America's Game coming out tomorrow morning, new intro made by Fizzle. And obviously, you got a little sneak peek of what the AMA is going to be like. Holy shit, he's just out here dropping dimes.
Hey, Fizzle, where you get all them dimes from, man?
Corey out here making us a drink already, too.
You know what? I need to have a drink, so let's pour up, man. Say less.
Love it.
I haven't even poured in the cup, man, but we'll do it.
Pour Blue Jays. That's why I don't watch baseball anymore. Well, also I'm a Red Sox fan, so unfortunately, not a lot to root for there.
Toronto. 416, stand up, man.
Yeah.
So Thomas, tell us about before we get into this, man. What are you doing? Like, where are you working at? Where's your content found? Fantasy space is popping.
Yeah, man, it's going crazy this time of year. So my personal thing is the Full Tilt Fantasy Football. That's with myself, Jacob Sanderson, who you can see all over Twitter or Thinking About Thinking, and then my other co-host Lucas Gilbert, and then I'm the senior director of video content over at Fantasy Points. So when you head over to the Fantasy Points YouTube channel, you pop in there. Everything Graham Barfield and Scott Barrett and John Hansen, all that stuff. We're running it. Just released the data suite, which is huge, free all week. Go check that out, data.fantasypoints.com. And again, boom. Everybody, man. Shout out.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
I love to hear that about the video stuff, man. I've been getting more and more into it, man. So I know you got to be having a lot of fun with that.
Oh man, it's real great. My favorite part is in the fantasy community when people realize that you can do it and they want you to intern. That's my favorite part about doing it, when people realize that they have this great intern opportunity that I unfortunately just have to turn down, But I mean, shout out to those guys. You'll get someone eventually.
Let me guess, it's usually an unpaid internship too.
Oh, every time. Yeah, every time.
We'll pay you the grand total of experience.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, viewership. going to be your greatest ally, but we're not going to put your name on anything. So no one will know.
You gotta earn it, man. You know, you can't just, you gotta work for free for half your life first.
Yeah, right. You have to put out, waiver wire for guys that everyone already knows are picking up before you can really get that recognition in the fantasy space.
I did hear a podcast this week recommending to pick up Devon Achane.
No way.
Appreciate that information.
Yeah.
I'm so glad all that thought went into that.
Pick up Brock Purdy with a 7th round pick. No one's got him on their roster.
I think that's probably a great idea, Adam.
Are we gonna do Brock Purdy again today? Let's keep going, man. You know,
I'm not doing Brock Purdy again for like the 7th straight day. Just I don't have the stomach.
Listen, I just put Corey's super chat on there because I didn't have to read it. I know what it said. Get to drinking.
You knew it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Schumer, sir.
All right. Well, this is probably the first one where we don't have a whole lot of like theme to talk about, Adam, other than the fact that possibly this week, can we get a little bit excited, especially can I for some of my shittier contenders that aren't doing so well? Do we get Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor back finally, please? Fantasy gods, can I have this? Don't take this away from me.
It would be nice to get somebody back when people realize, hey, you're losing people this week too, right? So
please, Breece Hall with no restrictions, no timeshare against Denver. Please, fantasy gods, I need this.
We got another super chat, man. Appreciate it, Dr. Ryan.
Dr. Ryan Cecil.
Appreciate that. All right, hey guys, 10-team Dynasty Superflex start 10. By the way, I'll get back to that, Mike. But super chat, comes first.
Takes precedence, baby.
Trying to get a gauge on Garrett Wilson's value. Someone wants to give me Bijan for Wilson and a 24 first. What are your thoughts? Okay, so we're looking at 10-team Dynasty Superflex start 10. I mean, I never mind. Superflex is in there. 10-team, man.
Hammers. Need those hammers. Thomas, where are you at when you read this one? Would you give up Garrett Wilson and a 24 first in this format to go get Bijan?
No. Bijan Robinson is my Dynasty ranked 9th overall player in Superflex formats. There's no shot I'm doing that. He said just behind Joe Burrow.
So do you want
you want the Bijan side, right?
Bijan side?
I'd want Bijan, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He would be getting Bijan here. So yeah, you want to get rid of that 24 first in Wilson. Well, right. I was when you started, I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have some controversy, and then I'm like, oh no, he's bullish. Okay, we're good.
I was waiting for like the hammer to drop where he was like, and Garrett Wilson's my 10th.
No.
10th in the first.
Yep.
The thing with Garrett Wilson is when he was going off the boards and startups, he really shot up into that like mid-second round because of Aaron Rodgers. Like we know he had that like elite rookie season, but so did Chris Olave and some of the other younger players. His mid-second round startup value was completely baked in Aaron Rodgers. And people just are now like, oh, he's not that good this year. I'm shocked. I'm stunned. And it doesn't look much better for next year, right? They would say Rodgers want to come back, but you got the same risk. Bijan is going to have round 1 startup value for 2 years. As long as your 24-1 isn't locked in bottom 3, yeah, I'm making that move.
I'm going to take the running back here as long as you're a competitive team, right? Like if I'm not a competitive team, just because it's a running back, Bijan's amazing and one of the few running backs that'll actually put a dynasty value. Like he's going to be ranked high even in 2024. Like that's going to happen.
He's like one of the one exceptions because we saw with Breece, even if the worst case scenario happens, he'll just retain some value.
Right. Even if superstar Dalvin Cook signs in New York, he doesn't actually take that big of a hit. Probably because Dalvin Cook is kind of washed. But either way here, the only thing I would say is like if this is going to be a chance at an early first in a 10 team, like the Superflex spot doesn't matter as much because most people are going to have 2 pretty good quarterbacks in the 10 team. Like the scarcity kind of goes out the window a little bit. Garrett Wilson's a fine asset. It's not like he's a bad asset. Now he's pissing away value. The longer Zach Wilson doesn't play well, even though we got to see it this last week finally. But the 2-for-1, like if this is a top 5 pick, top half in a 10-team league, like I think I would want that pick in Garrett Wilson if I'm not actually competing. But if you're competing, like you're one of the better teams in the league, go get that hammer of a running back and lock it in, because that's going to be a positional advantage. Because Bijan's going to be putting up 20 points probably just about every game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you're good. I was just going to say the one thing I wanted to touch on actually is, listen, there's some players in this 24 class that I really do like, but when we really talk about the class and it's like where you get, oh my gosh, the goosebumps type feeling, right? There's 3 players right now. And it doesn't mean there's not going to be other guys that are meaningful, but when we're in a 10-team league, what happens? First thing is the Superflex scarcity issue goes away, right? So I'm not saying you won't take a quarterback very high if they're going to mean something, but they don't, unless they're difference makers, they don't mean as much in a Superflex 10 team. So that already kind of takes away some of the elite upside in this class for me. And now you're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and maybe just some guys. So listen, even if this is like a 5th, 6th overall pick, like I think I'm okay going to get Bijan here. So like to your guys' point, I'll echo the same sentiments. If I'm rebuilding, this is foolish. If you're not rebuilding, I think Bijan's one of the guys that can absolutely win this league for you.
Yeah, one of the things about like rebuilding too is I don't really want to put points on my team if I'm trying to tank for a specific asset, right? Like in the 10-team league, I think Caleb Williams will probably still end up being the 101 just because he's carries that kind of weight. But I mean, 10-team, you're also like putting yourself out of the range of getting Marvin Harrison Jr., who would probably be the 2nd overall pick if we were just to do the draft right now in a 10-team Superflex league. So
in 10 team, you probably could make the case. Now, I'm not going to say you couldn't take Caleb 1, but just I don't play in a lot of 10-team, but when you look at it and you think about the dynamics, the warp, dude, receivers run that league. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Marv went 1. So, but the point is to what you're saying, you carrying Bijan the rest of the year, one, you don't really have a lot of dynasty value you could lose even with an injury. But to your point, you're going to have points on your roster. Why do you want those? It's not worth it for you.
And Thomas, you got points off your roster with that trade we made for that exact reason.
It's so huge, man. Like, and I knew after Diggs blew that game up, I was waiting for Homie to just slip into the DMs again and be like, I told you so. But right, shedding points on your roster when you're trying to lose is super crucial and important. But one thing to keep in mind too, especially with the 24-1s and the fluidity of them, is we don't know if Caleb's coming out. Like, he's openly stated that he may not. With that, Sanders may not as well. And we don't know how many others are going to come because the power is shifting more and more to the college players' hands. So that first at 105 or 106 in the 10 team that you thought might be Raheem Sanders, it may not be. So it's really up in the air right now, and I think there's room to recoup those firsts a little bit down the line.
Yeah, we got Koopa in the building. We know all about Recoupa. So
yeah,
you got to Recoupa some stuff, man.
Yep.
For sure.
Recoupa.
I mean, I think in 10 team that's a Ryan, that $4.99 is you already got so much found money. You're good, man. Don't go ahead and take that Bijan side, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. All right, how much higher can we get, or how much higher can Achane's value go, and where is it now? Dude, his value is already a moonshot at this point, man. I bought him for a 1st and a 2nd in a lineup league, and that was Mike. I was out here saying I don't think I'd do it for a 1st, and then 2 weeks in, I'm like, I guess I'm not to say I was fronting, but like, I'm like, shit. I'll let this first. This isn't my 1st. I'll let this 1st go, right? My biggest thing when I was talking about it was I didn't want to lose my flexibility, and I wasn't doing it there.
Gotcha. Well, it's crazy to think that here we are. And it's not like he started out of nowhere, right? This dude was a back-end 1st round, early 2nd round pick at worst in Superflex 12-team drafts. Like,
right.
It's not like he started crazy low and it's Puka Nacua story. Okay, this is a guy who had talent and people really liked, and he went to an awesome offense. And here we are, a few weeks into the season, actually seeing that to fruition. But Adam, if people still want to knock him for the size or whatever, they can just get the hell out. Like, just stop it. Okay, they're using him in the correct way. The guy is absolutely elite and explosive in space, and
yep.
I will fully say that he could beat Tyreek Hill in a foot race. One of the few guys in the entire league, if they were to line up and run 100, Achane getting him. Achane getting
him. All right,
him.
who you guys got your money on? Mike says he got Achane.
He's getting him, buddy.
Man, I'll tell you what. I think the winner would be me. Just getting to watch that would be so fun. Like I think it'd be really close too.
To answer the question of like how high you could go.
Like, oh my god, mine would explode just thinking about it.
How high could he go? Number 2, Dynasty running back.
Yeah, I would say with Achane, which is the worst season name I've ever heard. He should get knocked for that in standings, but I have him one spot ahead JSN at this point. He is my Dynasty 37th player overall at this point. I mean, running back scarcity is huge, and that we know what that system can do. And Jeff Wilson, IR, toast. Raheem Mostert, though fast, still getting older. Achane's doing something that I didn't expect, which is he has 33.3% of the touches inside the 5.
Yeah.
33.3% of the rushes inside the 5. Get out of here.
You know what's can I tell you what's crazy about that stat? Because I was looking at this. That doesn't include these pitches they keep giving to him.
Right.
Where it's a pass.
Yep.
He had 2 touchdowns off that.
Yep. It's insane. Just 16 missed tackles forced. Like, you're worried about a guy because of his weight, but we drafted Jahmyr Gibbs at 103 because he was a ham sandwich away from 200 pounds.
Man,
we're worried about Achane, who's clearly the run against Denver, where there's like the still image of 8 players on the ground and like one guy still running. That's enough. His weight's not an issue.
It's so funny with him because you just brought up a point that you think about, forced missed tackles, and a lot of people they want to get old school, like just abusing people, laying the shoulder down. It's really like they're trying to reach, grasping to get a hold of him on these forced missed tackles. It's the complete opposite of what you probably think of with most running backs on a forced missed tackle.
Buddy, I bet they would have a hard time getting him down in a flag football league.
It's a do it like the receiver drills, man. You touch it, you catch it. Can you even get your hands on him?
I don't know, but this is also a guy at the running back position. I mean, he could be a walking 30-40 burger for you any given week, right? Yep. That's saying if he never hits that 50-point ceiling, which we've already seen, right? Like we've already seen that. So,
yeah. And the other thing too is Mostert's not going to play all year, right? Like there's no way. So,
I wouldn't think so.
If he gets that stretch run, to your initial question, how high can it go? If Mostert misses time, consider him to the moon, maybe Mars. He might already be on the moon. He might be rounding and going to Mars.
We had a UFO on the show last, so be careful, man. It's getting crazy out here, man. I don't need to go to Mars just yet. I will say, it's amazing how every year, like surprises are going to come. Mm-hmm. But then when they happen, like where they come from is just amazing. I mean, Puka Nacua and Devon Achane going this high 4 weeks in. Mike's boy Sam LaPorta wasn't as big of a shock, but to be playing as well as he is right now is still a big shock to me 4 weeks in. Like I would have been wrong on a lot of different things, man, if I just made bets.
I just talked about it with Erica a little bit too before we got out here. We're recording America's game with him that'll come out tomorrow morning. But how last year was a horrible year for us on these pre-NFL rookie drafts, and people are like, "See, this is why I never do this shit. You guys don't know any better." Blah 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 blah. I was just thinking about how I get Sam LaPorta at the end of the 3rd round at all these pre-NFL rookie drafts, and all of a sudden that doesn't look so fucking bad to do them before the NFL draft anymore, does it?
No. Well, I mean, it's funny how like. I guess they value the running back position very low. Everybody values it very low this offseason, but Achane's been a very polarizing player all like offseason. As some people believe, and a lot of people are just, he's too small. I don't think I think everybody's been wrong, even if you believed, because he's been unbelievable.
I'll say Noah Hills, NoahMoreParties.com, who does RB analysis, was the most right on Achane of anyone that I've seen. We had him on Full Tilt, and when he was talking, I was like, there's no way. Like, this is – but it's not just in the running. Like, he improved his his route running to the point where the Texas slash route, which is like the most game breaking route for running backs, was so developed from where he was at the combine in his pro day, etc., to week 1 of preseason to now seeing it where they're trusting him in his pass pro and his route running. Like you said, at the 5 for these pitch plays, you can't predict a player developing that fast. You can do all the analysis you want, but Noah was the first one that said that he can do it. And if not for him, I probably wouldn't have drafted him even in the first round at all. So I just want a quick shout out. That dude crushed it. I
mean, I would have had more Achane if Mike and I didn't play in 22 leagues where we each got 6. Now, to Noah Hill's point, man, listen, we have a lot of disagreement in the way that we've gone through player takes, but man, he was so right 2 years in a row on Isaiah Spiller last year, and then now Devon Achane. Boy, when somebody kills it like that, you just say, I'm the only one not wearing hats off, man. Hats off to Noah Hills. Great call, man. He has a good running back. Some good and interesting, different running back perceptive and analysis. It's good.
You have to be able to look outside of what you do solely to be better. Like, that's so important. Because otherwise, you're going to be getting your socks blown off by everyone else getting these guys like Sam LaPorta in round 3, right? You're just going to pass on these dudes and get passed by in your dynasty league just because you have your take lock and your process lock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 4 weeks in, some people were deciding, do I take Michael Mayer or Sam LaPorta? Well, hopefully you took Sam LaPorta, and, same thing with like Charbonnet and Achane. And right now it's not an end all be all, but currently as we're seeing it, big difference in the players there, man.
I really have no concern either about Jeff Wilson coming back. I know people have thrown this out there about how well he did last year, and kind of, Jeff Wilson is always kind of the under the radar guy. But Adam, from like a locker room or a football perspective, you have a guy that's coming in and producing the way he is as a rookie, in his first handful of games. I don't think Mike McDaniel's that dumb to be like, I'm going to take this guy off the field, take this type of weapon off the field for Jeff Wilson. Like, the locker room would fucking implode. People would lose their shit. Like, what do you really expect from us then? We come out and we put up this amount of yards. We make all these highlight plays and help us win to this point, and now you're going to pull that dude off the field for a guy who's been on injured reserve. Like, that's not the way shit actually works, right? You never saw it with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, Unfortunately for me, even though I thought he was more talented at the time, it's like Brock Purdy came in and won those fucking games and won the locker room. And if they would have said, all right, this is Trey Lance's team now, appreciate your service, team would have had a fucking mutiny.
Yeah, that would be a riot, man. That would have went poorly. I mean,
so it sure as fuck ain't happening with Jeff Wilson. That's the point.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. I mean, I think at this point
riot. We'll riot.
There's no debate, in my opinion, if he's going to just come back and make Devon Achane not exist anymore. That's never happening. But I think he could be maybe just annoying as far as enough touches. Like, if the guy gets, let's say, 6 to 7 touches, it just takes the touch load down for everybody. But to your point, I'm not. What I've seen from Achane already has proven the reason I've been in on him, which is, like, I didn't think the upside was as high as it is, but I always knew that he's a track star. So you get him outside in this zone offense, like, dude, one run, all of a sudden, like, he doesn't need to have high touches. And the crazy part is he's getting them and he's hitting home runs. So even if Wilson comes back and takes a little bit of load, I'm good.
Right. I mean, I guess we aren't really discussing Achane as like that guy that you give 25 touches to a game. Like, that's not it. But
I don't think that would be ideal for anybody, really.
I don't think it would be either.
It's Tony Pollard factor too, right? They even said if you give Tony Pollard, the king of efficiency, 25 touches, his efficiency is going to go down, and that's what we've seen this year, aside even just from the touchdowns. But to your point of Jeff Wilson coming back, if you're buying Achane now and you're worried about an LDD rusher coming in and ruining the dynasty value that you've accrued by either holding or buying, then you shouldn't have bought or held at all. You're betting on talent, not just production. And as a one-dimensional, long down and distance runner with a little bit of goal line upside should not deter you from buying in. If anything, it should encourage you to buy more. And that's something we do a lot in Dynasty and forget about.
Yep. Yeah. I feel like I bought high, but man, the other thing too is the running back position at the high end right now. And we'll see what continues, but it's been more meaningful than it has been last year and the year prior. So, hey guys, 12-team Superflex, 1.5 tight end premium, full PPR, start 10. You're a contender going for a three-peat, and Burrow and Dobbs are your only quarterbacks. Oh, that's going to make it difficult. Wide receivers are Chase, JJ, and Debo. Okay, so you got Chase and Jefferson. JT's coming off the pup this week. Would you trade? That's part 1 of 1. And part 2 is, would you trade a 24 first for Baker? I'm currently sitting 2-2 and 7th in the league. Not that many better quarterbacks on the waivers. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Dan, I think this is one of those where
nope.
I would say if you look at this from the range of outcomes for both, okay? So, like, let's say somehow down the road your team ends up getting in the playoffs and Burrow gets healthy. Do you think that Baker Mayfield, because Josh Dobbs probably, I mean, you never know. He might still be the starter if there's, injury or whatever with Kyler. But like,
I don't think Kyler plays
the whole season. Yeah, and I mean, here's the question for me: does that, even if that's the case, does Josh Dobbs finish the year as the starter in Arizona?
Could.
He could, maybe. But it doesn't guarantee anything, right? Like, my point is, Baker becomes your quarterback too. And at that point in a league like this, do you think – because look at the range of outcomes. The range of outcomes, if you add Baker, do you think – and I like Baker as a little bit of a buy, but not at your 24 first, because especially right now with your situation. So on the upside, like, can Baker actually help this team win the title? I don't know. I think the team's good, but I would not be doing this for Baker, because on the flip side, like, if Burrow doesn't get healthy and somehow you miss the playoffs, dude, you sent a top 6 pick for Baker? Bro, sometimes you just have to be a little more patient. And if it doesn't even happen this year, you won 2 years in a row. You're good. Go ahead and rebuild, and you still got stud wide receivers for next year. Like, my personal opinion is I would not force that.
Dude, there's no way in hell I would send a first for Baker Mayfield. I know we can talk about how the locker room likes him and he's playing well, but there is no scenario I'm sending a first-round pick for Baker Mayfield. And Adam, I'm even talking like best ball leagues. Like, there's no chance in hell I would send a first for Baker Mayfield.
Man, I'm not rooting for Baker as a Browns fan, but I almost wouldn't mind seeing him keep this little streak up just so Mike might buy a share at some point. That'd be fun.
For a first-round pick, you can miss me with that shit. That shit's done.
He's just doing stuff that's not sustainable. 64.8% of his throws are going to his first read. He has been pressured 45 times and has accounted for 1 sack. There is no way Baker turnover Mayfield is going to not only continue to protect the ball. Mike Evans is banged up. We'll see what happens after they come back. But between the pressure percentage, his danger throws, his turnover rate, and how often it's going to the first read, it's not sustainable. Go find whoever wants to move off Tanacooked and send him less. If you're really in need, Tanacooked would be a guy, because we've seen him put up 16 points. We've seen him put up 4 points. Same thing that you can get from a lot of these other guys in that tier. Don't crush your future for middling returns.
Right. Send a third for the guy who's got Desmond Ridder, right? You're just looking to get by for a couple weeks or get insurance. Like, I'd rather do that than ever send a first for a guy who's a few spots above Baker. Like, who gives a shit at that point, right? Like, if you really want to go send a first for a quarterback who's actually producing. That's where you look at the warp tool and you go, holy shit, Apparently Russell Wilson isn't as cooked as we want, but you look on Keep Trade Cut, somehow Baker Mayfield's above Russ. Like, that would be a reasonable one. If you want to buy Kirk Cousins off somebody who just watched him have a shitty game, go buy Kirk Cousins. Like, At least if you're going to buy a first, send that first for a guy in a range that's actually going to be a difference maker, or stay in the same mid tier of dog shit and spend a third or 2/3 or a late second. Just don't send your first.
Like that is 100% the point. If you're going to buy a quarterback in this league now, I don't know. Did he hit the settings? He probably did. He did not. So I'm not sure exactly like how the market goes for you, what they cost. But this is the market and the player type you do not want to send your first for, right? Go lower, get gross. Or if you're going to send your first, even add to it and make it like way more than palatable. This isn't palatable. This is now there's a scenario where like to everything that we've been talking about, like if this anomaly was to keep happening, like listen, it's amazing this much. Like I've watched Baker not be able to run for his life, and it's like he's sitting back there for 4 games. What am I watching? Like it's not likely to continue, but if somehow it did, it's just not a process play I would ever want to make personally. But I get your situation. I just wouldn't be panicking.
There's also a way to get around having to even move a pick, right? Like,
true.
You gotta be a guy. I was sitting here all offseason saying you should go and stash Jacoby Brissett. You should go stash Tay Heineke. Maybe less on Brissett now because Howell looks like he can ball, which shout out to him. But I have a lot of Brissett rust just in case. But Tay was very usable in Washington. So if he's floating out there, you don't even have to make that move. You can pray for Desmond Ridder and his demise, which seems to be coming to fruition. Eventually, he's got to get in there if Arthur Smith wants to keep his job. So you can just roster Tay for next to nothing and pray that he comes through. Treat the quarterbacks that might become starters like running backs, because all you need is one. So you don't have to put yourself behind the 8 ball.
In these lineup leagues too, like we're only 4 weeks of completed football into the season, but we've seen a start by Gardner Minshew. We've seen a start by Andy Dalton, who actually performed very well in that start. We're going to see one here probably from Mitch Trubisky here this week. We almost had one from Jameis Winston a week ago. So this is kind of the situation too. Like Baker, how much better is he than some of those quarterbacks? I think it's arguable, if you feel a little bit better about it. But I can definitely tell you the price I'd have to pay for one of those guys versus the price you're being asked to pay for Baker Mayfield. I'll roll out the 50 feet of shit and pay that price before I'll ever pay the first for the Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Agreed. All right, so Noah says, was wondering what you would look to move T-Law for the rest of the team. No one notable at running back except Nick Chubb that I traded Akers for. Then JSN, Dotson, and Puka. I might have missed the first one here. Seems like it anyway. Yeah. All right, so that's a little ass backwards. Here we go. I'm in a 12-team half PPR start 9. I have 624 first. Dang. 325 first. Okay, so you got all the first. I have a question. Current quarterback room is T-Law, A-Rich, Howell. I'm looking to trade T-Law because I will probably be the 101. So then I was wondering what you would look to move T-Law for. Rest of the team, no one notable at running back except Nick Chubb. So he's got JSN, Dotson, Puka, and LaPorta.
I would treat it like you're in a QB horde, right? You're just penciling in Caleb Williams or Drake May. You're penciling in a quarterback with some of those early firsts that you're going to have. Maybe multiple quarterbacks. So I treat it like I got a little mini QB horde already. I'm rebuilding, so I don't really give a shit. I don't actually want to win games. So if I can get the points off my team, even better. But I'm not letting them go for cheap, right? I'm not just trading a quarterback to trade a quarterback. T-Law is probably a tough one because we've seen him play not good to start the season. So his value is actually kind of taking a hit. But if you want to wait for, that game where the first person on X or Adam comes on here on a recap show and he'd be like, see, I told you should never doubt this man. He just went for a 35 or 40 points.
Get him a hologram.
Yeah. And then that's the point that you like, listen, anybody want Trevor Lawrence, man? You want to give me like 3 more firsts? Like, can I get another couple 25 firsts?
Right.
We'll throw in here. I'm also too the cool thing about it, because you're in a little bit of a QB horde here, is you don't have to take a quarterback back, which sets you up for absolutely just bending somebody over a barrel at some point for a position guy and like trading way up and out of your range. Like there might be somebody in your league, say Trevor Lawrence has a little bit of a resurgence and a bounce back, and Adam's telling me, I told you so. Because a possibility you could like turn that into a Justin Jefferson, or you could go down even a little bit further and get another elite type wide receiver and a future first in 2025 and not take a quarterback back. That would be something I'd be interested in exploring. Running backs are a hard pass, a hard fuck no at this point for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is one. Not that many people end up getting this type of a pick hoard, right? And like we talk about, quarterback hoarding quite a bit, and you can do it especially in Superflex because of the scarcity. But people don't look at picks the same way a lot of times. And to the point you're making, like if you have half of the first, right, each year, but like it's almost like if you had half the box of cards, right? You got studs coming in these packs. But someone's trying to come and nickel and dime you for one pack. Like, I'll just keep these, and I know I'm going to unlock a couple of these rare cards. So, I think when you have that type of a hoard, like, letting go of them should be coming at a premium. Because you also know when people do come for those picks, there's a reason. So, I'm with you very much there, Mike.
I'd also say that Trevor Lawrence hasn't really played that poorly. Like he's second in PFS quarterback grade.
Thank you, man. I knew I needed Tipple here. Thank you.
He's number one right now in big time throw to turnover worthy play ratio in the league. His receivers are costing him 2 points of EPA per game. So he's not playing that badly. If you are not watching the QB school over on YouTube, he broke down the 37-17 loss. And it, as my co-host Jacob has said, it is the best 37-17 loss that you'll see. He's not playing that badly. So selling now, especially in your position where you're in no hurry to make moves, you've got everything you need to set up. If I'm moving anyone, it's Sam Howell. If you're already going to be locked into other quarterbacks, move Howell, who's balling out, acquire those assets, move Howell and a second or two and try to move up into one of the top 30, top 40 dynasty assets and sail with your two QBs for now. The answer for me is don't move anyone. Don't move Lawrence anyway. Don't be so, and remember again, Caleb, we're not sure he's coming out. So I wouldn't treat that pick like it's a locked in Caleb right now. I would say hold fast.
That part doesn't ever worry me, man. I remember the same shit for like every quarterback that's come out in the last, how many years. I understand there's the whole NIL thing, and I've seen people throw that out, but the dude made $2.6 million off of NIL this year. He's going to make a fuck ton more when he comes into the league just off a signing bonus alone. So, he's coming out. Push comes to shove, I had this conversation. I don't give a shit if it's the Bears or, a fucking CFL team. You're going to throw $30 million at a dude guaranteed in the first year. He's going, yeah, I'm fucking going to the NFL. I don't care who you are.
You can come to the CFL. Just keep him away for the Bombers. Let's go, Argos.
Yes.
Caleb Williams, welcome to Toronto.
Let's go, man.
Toronto Argonauts, baby. Washington Sentinels. We're gonna bring the replacements in.
Former home of Ricky Williams. Thank you very much. We had superstars in Toronto. Just saying.
I love it, man. Vinsanity. I was trying to look at the settings just again to make sure. Yeah, Noah, this is the other thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this part here. So this is a lineup start 9, and it's half PPR. You could get bent coming to find a top 10 quarterback my way. You have everything that you really want right now, right? I wouldn't if you're going to get rid of T-Law, somebody has to really feel it, in my personal opinion. I'm not saying you can't sell him, but I just doubt, based on how he's played, for the way people think he's played with points per game for 4 weeks, that you're getting, summer T-Law prices. So I'm probably holding it in lineup start 9. When I have this type of thing going, the only assets I'll typically hold, unless you just completely overpay, will be top 10 quarterbacks that are young like him.
Yeah. QB Horton's never a bad thing for me. Sam Howell would be the one that I would be moving because that's a guy that you could look at next year and go, he doesn't actually have a fucking job somewhere. Not that I think Sam Howell's horrible. You know my affinity for him, but it's a fifth-round quarterback who's played bad at times. This dude is not guaranteed anything past, next week at this point. So,
boy, we got a
look at this guy.
Look at this dude. Look at this dude.
I love Corey. He knows about the walking around in the boxers, and then the Belvedere at the South Harmon School of Technology, Institute of Technology.
I will say, I like this. I'm starting to really like this this little routine we got going right now. I won't like it as much Thursday morning, but
we never like it Thursday morning.
But yeah, you just keep it coming, man. I'll sit here and drink and just be careful. I could talk when I get drinking, man. So all right, we got plenty of questions.
Just a thing on the Caleb Williams thing too, like just so you can actually know the numbers. $2.6 million is what his NIL worth is for this year, like what he got. Bryce Young, the number one pick last year. This goes up every single year, by the way. Got $38 million guaranteed at signing.
Right.
Like, sure. I'm no math expert, but one's more than 10 times more.
Well, I would say
how early it is, right? There is always saying these are the 5 teams I want to play. I just find it interesting, and why I have a little bit I believe Sanders maybe more than I believe Caleb, because I don't think Sanders is that top 2-3 quarterback in the draft class that people do. I think he's
right.
I think he's coming back. I think it would benefit him to come back. Those first couple of games look a lot different than the last 2 on tape. So I think it's more believable with him for different reasons. It's just really early for him to be outright publicly. You hear murmuring, but publicly stating, I want to play for these 4. I'm going back. That's the only reason it carries a little bit of weight for me. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to be right.
Yeah. Where do you gentlemen have Puka in startup right now, or overall dynasty wide receiver? We talked about this briefly. There's been enough time to think a little more on it. Man, I love the question. I love to kind of you don't actually have startups happening, right? But I like the idea of keeping in tune with what they would be. So love the question. What do you guys think? Where would you put him right now? I think this is a polarizing one, but he's going to be high for me.
Dynasty wide receiver wise, I'll put him at 14. Feels pretty good for me, and I have a hard time moving him to 13. Right, just because of we talk about the elite production, right? But you still have that downside. The other guy that I debate back and forth, like who I would rather have in Dynasty right now as a wide receiver, if I'm just looking at production, is Davante Adams, and that's a tough one for me to ever jump, right, until I see Davante Adams start to fall off. Because really, in reality, the risk for both of them is probably the same, right? Davante Adams suffers a major injury because of his age. No one gives a shit about him anymore. Puka Nacua, even though he's playing really well, let's say Cooper Kupp comes back in the next 2 weeks and Puka Nacua all of a sudden is only getting four targets a game, for 30, 40 yards because of the draft capital and where he started. All of a sudden people don't give a shit about him either. So he completely falls off a cliff. The only difference would be Davante Adams would still have that name cachet, and somebody next year would be talking up get Davante Adams coming off this injury, right? Look what happened with Keenan Allen last year. We would still tell ourselves that situation. If Puka has a bad rest of the year with Cooper Kupp, it's done and it's over with. It was a Travis Fulgham story, and now no one gives a shit. So
I have him
14 though, still really high.
I also have him at 14. However, I have him 2 spots above Davante Adams, and I have him 1 spot ahead of Brandon Aiyuk as well. The way I see it, the way he's being used, he's Robert Woods in this offense. Lines up outside at 70%. He's in line at 30%. He's playing the Robert Woods role, and Kupp is aging, although he's still the GOAT. We'll see what happens with him, but I think that we could see a changing of the guard in 2 years maybe. But I think the way he's producing and with this offense, I think he's pretty much locked in at bottom end wide receiver 1 for the rest of this year for sure, and that's enough to propel him up. Father time comes for everybody. Davante Adams is the GOAT, but it does come for everyone. The thing that scares me about Puka is if McVay leaves. Is Puka good enough to operate this well in another system? So 14 is why I have to have him there. In my opinion, like he has legitimate wide receiver 1 alpha numbers right now, draft capital aside. But if McVay is gone, can he survive? So that's why I have him at 14 right now. And the fact that I know Stafford has found the fountain of youth somehow. I need to find whatever he's on.
Yeah, he got that Puka juice, man. It's easy to find the fountain of youth when you got that guy all of a sudden.
I'd like between breakfast with Cup and the Puka juice, I think.
Right. You not only get a guy you could throw the ball to, like you got your breakfast buddy back, like that meant a lot for a guy. He doesn't have to. His back doesn't feel so bad anymore.
He needs a quarterback. Go and trade for Stafford. Like I don't know how I even just missed that. Hey, let's go get Stafford if you're still watching. There you go.
Yep. And well, I'll just say I think you guys have him at 14. I would definitely put him ahead of Adams. And I mean, when I say definitely, like I would take him every single time ahead of Adams. However, I'm not going to act like Adams is some stiff. The difference for me though, and Mike, I hear you, right? I get the point you're making, and I'm not saying there isn't warrant to having concern with Puka and his lack of draft capital, but I think if you look at Adams and you typically you would say, all right, it's week 5. Davante Adams is until he is to the point you're making, until Father Time actually calls, Davante Adams, it's your time. That dude can ball, right? So in the process, you're saying, all right, I'll just take this aging asset until it rides. Like I'll ride till the wheels fall off because there's uncertainty for Puka. And typically the reality for that would be a young guy is that he's not likely to score as much, right? And a lot of times you lean into the age because you got this young buck who's going to be up and down. But here's the thing for me. Now, listen, I will tell you that I was not out there banging the drum for Puka Nacua. I was not. I drafted him in best ball quite a bit because at that point it's like, I'd heard the name enough and he was hanging around in the 4th and 5th round in our startups. I mean, Mike got him a couple times for free. He didn't even get drafted. So, but at the same time, there are times I will shift my process and I think you have to do it sometimes quick because, all right, yeah, we could look back. Ask yourself this: we could look back and say, "Oh, yeah, he fell off a cliff." It was a great story, and I saw this in the chat. We got a super chat to get to, but I just want to put this up there. This Puka fall off is about to be legendary. Can't wait to watch from afar. And the reason that's true, Slashy, is because what he's done so far is legendary. The only reason the fall off could be legendary is because he got himself up there in 4 weeks. So I'm gonna put him at 12, and I'll take the chance of him falling off the mountaintop because he got up there pretty quick, man. And the thing is, outside of week 3, like he's looked very much the part. I'm very hesitant week 1. I'm still hesitant week 2. Week 3, I'm kind of like, man, if this is a down week for Puka, like telling myself maybe it's not, right? But if this is a down week for Puka, and sure as shit it was, I don't know, man. I think there's exceptions to the rule, and he's going to be that for me.
Remember when Ross St. Brown was supposed to suffer a downfall every week since week 7 of his rookie year?
Yep.
We could be looking at a similar scenario, but I think you're right in that his downfall is going to look worse because he's hit record numbers. Yeah, so coming back down to having 6 for 81 in any week is going to be like, he's trash. Not really. He's average.
He is going to be graded and judged very harshly because you also have people that don't want to buy in. It's going to be an interesting one, man, with Puka's story for his career.
Let me just throw this out there too, because we use this shit all the time. Like I've heard this a billion times, and I kind of bought into it, but I was curious. This whole he's going to have the Robert Woods role, right? That's the hot phrase, right? He's Robert Woods, right? What was Robert Woods' role with Cooper Kupp in 2021 with Matt Stafford before he got hurt? Like just looking at it, right? In Robert Woods' game log during that time, like he had some good games. If you look at fantasy points, he had some touchdowns. I'm not going to deny that. but he was basically a back-end wide receiver 2, but he also had games where he's 3 for 33, 2 for 31, 3 for 35. This is all up through week 9 until he got hurt and then missed the rest of the season. Meanwhile, Cooper Kupp is breaking fantasy at this point and continue to break fantasy for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it from a WARP perspective, Adam, just to kind of see where this Robert Woods with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp role would be. It's back-end wide receiver 2. Like, it's fine. I'm not saying like he's trash by any stretch of the imagination, but if we're going to look at this from like a WARP perspective, we got a guy that's pushing as a dynasty wide receiver 1 all the time, like right now where he's at. I'm saying there's some reasonable risk of him falling off from a standpoint. And if we want to just lock him into this Robert Woods with Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp, like if we say like this is the floor, or this is a realistic outcome, at that time, man, in 2021, from a WARP perspective, man, he's in the flattest of flat tiers. Like, that graph looks absolutely ridiculous. So that would be a guy where if people want to pay me dynasty wide receiver 1 prices, by all means, I'd be stupid if I wouldn't accept. Like I de-risk myself entirely. Here you go. You have them. You take them. And then I'll just go bet on different assets, right? If we want to debate Davante Adams or Puka Nacua for your contenders, you're going to give me Adams and any kind of a plus, by all means. Like, you take Nacua, sure. You assume all the risk, and I'll just fucking ride this thing out as long as I got it.
There won't be a plus. They're in the same tier for me. Every time if it was a startup, I would lean Puka. There's no plus coming. Now, if you could do that, I don't think anyone would have a debate. Even if the plus is kind of minuscule, second or third or something, why not?
In that 2021 season, Robert Woods did average 15.2 points per game, which I think is important to note. If Puka Nacua comes down and his mid-tier range is 15.2 points per game with a 27 point per game upside, that's
because right. I think it's very fair to the point you just made at the end, where if we're going to talk about what Robert Woods was like, when has Robert Woods ever looked like Puka Nacua?
Right. Yeah, and just so. The way I look at Puka and this 1 and 2 situation in LA is kind of how I look at Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, where T. Higgins gets the I'm a wide receiver 1 bump and he gets pushed way up rankings for how good he is. I think that situation can land true as well with Puka. He was a late round rookie pick, which is why it's hard to see it that way. But there is a world, in my eyes, where we look at him like T. Higgins right now. And I think that can exist. I think you can have 2 wide receiver 1s in Dynasty in one offense. And Kupp's already falling out of that wide receiver 1 tier all over the place. So I think there's an opportunity that may be there that hasn't been there in the past. So I understand your hesitation, but I see a clear path to him getting there. He's still outside of wide receiver 1 for me, but I think there's a path that exists.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, a couple spots really here, right? Like we're not way off base with yeah. I mean, the last point I'll make, I know Mike probably has a couple here, and we got super chat. So let me give the sounder, man. Appreciate you guys throwing the supers. Last point I'll make too is with the Davante Adams thing. I mean, we want to talk about father time. Unpopular opinion. We don't want to talk about this, but he's got soft tissue injuries. He went on IR. Are we sure Cooper Kupp's going to come back and be Cooper Kupp and stay healthy the whole rest of the year? I don't know.
We weren't sure that Keenan Allen still had it in him, and yet here we are.
Keenan Allen forever disrespected. I'll have none of it either. He is.
And if you want to talk about fucking hamstrings, that's the king of hamstrings right there.
Yeah,
they're still firing, baby.
Well, it's because they find a trainer that stabs people in the heart with needles. It's really rejuvenated Keenan Allen's career.
I'll tell you what, it would be nice too if you had like if you had Cooper Kupp over there like demanding all the attention, and you had this going off when it's like these teams are out there knowing like Puka's gonna get all the work and he's still out there scoring the game-winning touchdown. Imagine hating on this dude. Wild shit, man. Wild shit to me.
Take lock. It's real.
He's good.
He is good. He's good.
The only point I got is we talk about selling near peak, and this dude is fucking near his peak.
So. You're almost at 2 first territory.
Now, to that point, I don't
sell. You're 24, 25, 1 territory, and that's jumping the shark. That's great Batman jumping the shark right there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, well, if you're getting 2 firsts for Puka Nacua, I made that same argument. Like, I wouldn't pay it, and shit, man. There's only a handful of receivers I'm not probably taking 2 firsts for in a principal play. So, yeah.
It's the same thing as take lock too. Like when you just can't let players go because you love them because of their youth or whatever. Like they start reaching those territories, you just move off of them. That's the right play. Anthony Richardson's fucking amazing, man. But if you're gonna give me 3 firsts plus for A-Rich, you can have him everywhere. You know, CJ Stroud's awesome. Same thing. You give me 3 firsts for CJ Stroud, he's yours. Like, sure. What are we talking about?
I mean, well, I don't know. Other than like all those guys they are actually scoring points as they're young. But I mean, yeah, there's absolutely a sell point for liquid draft capital like that. But he's. I never envisioned being a homer or a guy that was really in on Puka, but it's hard to argue with what he's done. And now, to the point, he's likely coming back to reality at some point. But what does that look like? None of us really know. Okay, super chats, man. Super chats. Noah, what about Amon-Ra 25 first for T-Law? Is that cheap?
Yeah, it's still pass. You need something else.
Well, can I talk about this? The weird part about it, right? This goes back to the leveraging. So you already have, I think I have to go back and look. You have 6 first and 25 or 5, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You get some more. The only way I'm doing this, there's only one way I'm taking this trade, is if I'm looking at my little treasure trove and I'm saying, yeah, this might be the one that I don't have, like one of the ones that is worth betting on. Because if that's not the case, no, man. I got to wait on it a little longer, which that's fine, but I'm getting off of T-Law, and I love Amon-Ra, but it's a half PPR, lineup start 9, I'm good.
You also got to think about, too, like you're at the point, too, where draft picks are kind of devalued, so people, when they send them, they're devaluing in themselves. You have the treasure trove, so when it comes time for you to start cashing these in for guys like Amon-Ra, Amon-Ra might only cost at the time that you want to buy him or start to make a push in at the time, like he might cost 2 of them, where people look at them when they're at their absolute peak.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the 25, but maybe a couple of those mid to late 24 first that you're holding, and you're like, I could really use a receiver like Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
That's when you're selling your assets at the absolute peak. Like if I'm taking Amon-Ra back at this point, now I inherit any risk with Amon-Ra. I don't inherit a whole lot of risk with a quarterback like T-Law, even though, like I said, I acknowledge me personally, I don't think he's been playing well. And from a fantasy scoring point standpoint, he hasn't been playing well.
Yep.
Like I'm just going to hold on to the positional leverage at the quarterback unless you really blow me away. If he said Amon-Ra and a potentially like one of those early 24 first, like this guy is one of the ones that I don't own, and he also could be early. Shit, I'll make the bet against him then. I'll take the receiver in the early 24 first because I might turn that into whoever the hell QB3 is in the class. And now I'm looking at Amon-Ra and Michael Penix, if that's the dude, or whoever the hell that may be. Bo Nix, if you're a Bo Nix guy, which is Eric would probably be vomiting right now just by the mention of the name Bo Nix.
What does Thomas say about this?
Bo Nix is so 2021.
This is 2021.
Nix is fetch, and we need to stop making fetch happen.
Because man, that was a quote from Mike.
He's coming right off of fucking Mean Girls Day. I love it.
Dang, nice.
Yeah, you can't sit with us. It's still too cheap. It's still too cheap. If anything, guys, I'm surprised we're not all wearing pink. It's Wednesday.
I'm the only one, man. Come on.
I know. I'm sorry. I went teal to drown my sadness.
It's like Chartreuse.
Yeah, no, it's too cheap. Amon-Ra is goated. He's great, but that 25-1, it doesn't really sink much. And remember, if you're giving somebody an elite quarterback asset, you're devaluing the 25-1. So unless they have a roster that's high fragility, which is really hard to do, start 9. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a no for me, dog. And I'm going to keep it that way. Again, don't panic on Trevor Lawrence. Sell Howell. You'll feel much better about potentially having 3 quarterbacks when you don't see Sam Howell on your roster.
Yeah, see if you could talk him into selling Howell for that 25 first.
I mean, That's actually a really good point too. When you are trading away a stud, and if you think about the format, right, that's one of the things that can really typically propel you. You get a stud like that at Superflex. I mean, there's definitely times I'll bet against teams they're just built poorly, but that's a great point. They could help him stay afloat and out of the early range of picks, and then you really kind of gifted him T-Law.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Corey's back, man. I'll tell you what, dude, Corey. I don't know, man. I think he's waiting until Mike says he's the valedictorian again, because he feels disrespected. He got it taken away.
Must be. It's probably all them ones I gave him on Thursday night.
Oh,
waffles, pancakes, or French toast. All at the top of the form. Which one you taking?
It's waffle. You can't have chicken and pancakes. Can't have chicken and French toast. It's chicken and waffles, baby. Let's go.
I mean, technically, right? Crepes are French pancakes. So
just say they're really thin pancakes.
I'm going with pancakes. Just crepes are amazing.
Nah, I'm not gonna say. You gotta break my arm.
I don't give a shit.
Man.
It's waffles. You can't disrespect a donkey like that. It's waffles.
My favorite waffle is Lego. Lego my ego.
Mike might come off these Dynasty, but he ain't coming off that Lego. Lego my ego, man. I would say more often than not, I'll lean the waffles. There are some times though where I'm like, man, French toast is right up there. But if you told me like I got to pick one, which one I'm taking on top of my French toast for me is a little more like I got to be a little more in the mood. Like I'll eat waffles for dinner,
Man, waffles dead last for me.
Really, I love waffles, man. Well, if we're talking Eggos, like if you just the frozen ones, you get a good waffle. Good, no, that's good stuff, man.
Not even like a fresh one, just too much dough. Good, pass.
I mean, how can? Well, I guess.
Give me really thin pancakes.
So you got pancakes 1, French toast 2, waffles 3.
You're damn right.
Peppy little bitch. I like this, man. This could be a good trade show, man. We got animosity brewing. We got the Puka stuff. We got the crepes and waffle. How do you hate waffles? How do you hate he hates the underdog story? He hates waffle. Like crepes. What? Thomas, do you see now? Like
crepes are amazing.
Sometimes I just need somebody to see what I see. Like I don't
had chicken and waffles. That's got to be my first.
Boom. It's a great question. Now, have you ever had them together? Y'all see that TikTok out there? Like
Roscoe's, son.
Made together? Okay. You still hate waffles? I don't know what to tell you.
We used to go to the Waffle House all the time after basketball games. Come on. Stop this. Okay?
Jeez.
Pancakes number 1, French toast 2, waffles 3.
I mean, Mike's told you for a long time he's basic and he knows it. So
I will take all of those. I will take all those over an omelet. Omelets are fucking trash.
I do like. I'll say this. Can I say this though, Thomas? Before you go and just leave, and I wouldn't blame you. I like when we argue about this. Like it's too much dough with waffles. These are all fucking dough.
My A disagree. All right, like they disagree. Okay, they're gonna move to B cups after I go pound 4 waffles in the kitchen right away.
I don't think this has ever happened where we're behind on super chats because we just keep going into every single one. No, you're good. You're good. I'm just laughing my ass off.
It's this riveting conversation about waffles, pancakes, or French toast.
Listen, this is why you come to AMA, man. This is.
Listen, Nana would be rolling in her fucking grave right now if I didn't put crepes at number 1.
All right. Family.
Now, if you tell me the pancakes don't count, like I can't have crepes in the category, then fucking pancakes go to dead last. They're dog shit.
A dry pancake. Get out of here.
But give me that French toast with the powdered sugar, and you get a little bit of fruit on top. Maybe a little strawberry jam-ish. Let's fucking roll.
I have something that I'm going to ask y'all because everybody asks us questions. Like I'm going to ask somebody in here to really dig deep, come to the expo, and show Mike how a fucking waffle's made because this is erroneous. Erroneous on all accounts.
Pass.
I wouldn't let him.
Waffles. I mean, come. I feel bad. Pass. I feel bad, man. He does this shit with people. It's not like.
Pass.
All right. Devin Stalls, appreciate the super chat. New to Dynasty Best Ball. Oh, you're in the right place, buddy. We got you.
Got you covered.
Any advice on win now trade strats?
So, Devin, here's a perfect thing. I just got done recording America's Game with Eric. We talked about what to do as, some of those teams. We started out sad about, you're 1-3, you're 0-4, like what to do there. But we also talked about these teams where you're doing pretty well and you want to really push in for the win now. So I kind of summarize it here, but the one thing, especially in Dynasty Best Ball, you can do, and a lot of people I see make the mistake is, like, I'm more willing to push my first in on a Dynasty Best Ball because my roster is constructed correctly. Like, and my risk isn't as much as in a lineup league where there's so much damn variance. But one of the things that people always forget, instead of going and buying that one asset with that first, right? Like going and buying Brandon Aiyuk with the first, Adam. Like, that'd be one where, yeah, Brandon Aiyuk for a first in Dynasty Best Ball, for sure. You take Brandon Aiyuk. Instead of doing that, go buy 3 receivers that are a little bit lower than Brandon Aiyuk. Like, go down a tier and buy 3 of those guys because it's a best ball league and stack the piss out of really good, solid depth.
I go. You got any thoughts, Thomas?
Yeah, I was just going to say the way I look at this all the time is don't pay future first for future wide receiver production. Like, don't
get its production now.
That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Or future wide receiver or future running back production is how I like to equate trading my picks in any format. I mean, it's not often I'm just willy-nilly going to toss my picks around in the first place, but they absolutely nailed this on the head. You can find cheaper options that will look. Tyler Lockett has been a perpetual don't roster for years, and he's making JSN a sell for people in Dynasty. He's relegating into the shadow realm right now, and it's possible that there are options for you. I'll just say again, don't spend future draft capital on future wide receiver production.
I think that's a pretty damn good. I like the way it's worded, and I like the validity of it. But I'll say this because, Devin, this is something we talk about at length. I'm going to give one. As a whole, typically, most leagues I look at, Mike and I, you could go back and listen to our other stuff if you don't believe us. It's all we talk about is tearing down and acquiring depth. The one thing I will say, Mike, and I don't know if you've seen some of this, DM questions, people. Mike, I've seen a lot lately where there is a caveat to this, and it's strictly this, and that is I think everybody needs to be very mindful of how many roster spots there are. Because, Mike, everything we do, if Mike's making a league, there's at least 35 in those things, right?
Yeah.
You talk about 35 spots that can go in and out of a start 9 to fucking 15, okay? You cannot have enough depth. Now, Mike, I saw a start 23 and a start 24 where they're starting roster spot. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. Roster 23 and 24. Right. With 11 and 12 starters, and I'm looking and I just initially saw some of the players and I see the record and I'm like, this is odd. Now I've been in a situation in best ball where sometimes you don't have enough hammers at the top and you just have a bunch of middling production, right? And they're just not popping. But that's a different scenario because now when you have 23 or 24 roster spots, you talk about having absolutely. You have to watch every player like a hawk at the bottom of your bench because that's where your edge is having more than people. And if you take a 3-for-1, for example, in that would not be the best way to do it. So understand that tiering down, by and large, in best ball is the absolute way to go in Dynasty Best Ball. Just make sure you're paying attention to how many roster spots you have because that would be the one caveat to this. Otherwise, tier down until you just land so many players that they can't see anymore.
Right. If we're talking just the average of 30, which is pretty reasonable for a lot of people. I mentioned Brandon Aiyuk. Keep trade cuts got him at wide receiver 13, which you could argue back and forth, but I think it's a reasonable range. Yep. If that's the level of player that cost a first, I can literally give you options in the 70s, the 50s. Like if that was a piece and I had to spend a first on for multiple of those kind of guys, I'm doing all the time. Like Cortland Sutton's wide receiver 55, throw him in. You talked about Tyler Lockett Thomas. Like that's a fucking auto one that I would put in. You got other guys in this range like, I was just like a Josh Palmer type. Like that's a dude you would throw into a deal. Adam Thielen is old man, just river, wide receiver 66. Like that's what I mean. You don't have to shoot for that top upside in best ball as much. To your point, Adam, as long as your total bench spots can hold it, right? If you're 20 bench spots, 25 bench spots, you got to really start looking at the bottom of your roster and being like, can I afford, or these guys I'm getting in the trade or this down tier that I'm doing, can I actually afford to roster these guys compared to what I already have? Because you shouldn't be carrying a lot of backup quarterbacks or any RBs on a 53. Like everybody in those shorter benches needs to be able to score points on a weekly basis consistently. And if they can't, they don't fucking deserve to be on your team.
Yep, and the lowest I've played in is 25. Mike's in the league, and that was the first experience, Mike, where I'm like, man, like every week it's uncomfortable because you're having a discussion. Do I got to cut this guy that you think has dynasty value because you don't have? There's
spots.
You're not going to get points from this guy, and you can't afford to hold it, especially when bye weeks hit. So, Thomas, any thoughts from you?
No, I think you guys absolutely crushed us. I don't think I can expand on it much more. You're right on the short benches where you need to be maximizing your potential for playability.
Yep.
And I think your bench needs to worry. So in a short bench, I typically worry about less accruing value in Dynasty on a short bench more than I am playability. Whereas in my starting lineup, I want to have playability and value accruing through time. So I think you guys nailed it. Along with the not paying up for future production, you need to actually pay for current production and opportunity while not losing your dynasty value. Otherwise, you might be going in, but that going in shortens your total window. And I think that's negative EV right there, if there ever was one.
Big time. And I think, when you have the longer benches, right, you can afford to have a couple of these guys that you hold out this dynasty long-term play for, as long as you're keeping it to a minimum, right? One or two, probably. You get to 23, 24, 25. You keep those every single week, to your point, negative EV. Great call. I like the way you worded that. All right. I tell you what, I'm hoping that, this is not Danny, because Danny definitely does not have his doctorate degree right now. And Dr. Dimes, we appreciate the super chat. 12-man Superflex start 9. DJ, love Russ. Move Russ for 25 first and a third. Can get Dobbs for 25 second. Middle of the pack. I'm waiting for Breece and Chase to boom. Y'all the best. Okay. This one's interesting.
Yeah, let me just look at this from a war perspective here.
By the way, Cooper was talking really good about waffles. Cooper, get him hip to the warp on waffles, man.
The dog shit.
I would do this, but I also wouldn't go and pay a second for Dobbs as well. If you're in the middle of the pack and you're hoping and waiting, you have an opportunity to jump off a fumbling asset that looks like he's standing on a cliff. He's tightrope walking across the Grand Canyon, waiting for a strong breeze to come and knock him over. Get out now. You still have, your quarterbacks are shaky anyway. I don't think Love is starting in a couple of years. I think Daniel Jones is going to go to jail for a Jimmy Hoffa-esque robbery of the Giants. But at that point, if you're middle of the road, sell it out now and hope those two can turn it around. And you're securing, again, you're not really hurting your chance to win now, but you're definitely gaining value. But don't trade for Dobbs in this case. Play like a receiver in your super flex spot.
Yeah, I wouldn't do the Dobbs part at all.
Just in a true warp, right? If I look at a start 10 league, which I don't have a start 9 to look at, but start 10 is pretty goddamn close. Russ is he's getting you about 0.4 wins over a replacement player, right? And he's a top 6 quarterback. Like, think about that. He's actually QB6. Russ is actually playing pretty well. Dobbs himself, I can also say this, is playing well himself, but he's about 0.27 wins. So Russ is almost doubling him up so far through 4 weeks. I can definitely say, at least for long-term security, you probably have more faith in Russ. And I don't think if this was like a 24 first in the third, I think possibly that would be the situation where you could go, I can make like this tier down and just upgrade and then bet against this guy's first, blah, blah, blah. But the fact it's a 25 and it's 2 years out makes me think I'm just going to stick with Russ, who's doubling up Josh Dobbs at this point and actually has more security.
So I would, Dr. Adams, if you want to put the format in, it's probably not going to lean much for me, but I would like to know it. I'll say this. You have a Superflex league, right? So right now you have 3 quarterbacks, okay? And going into it, what's that?
You should be trading one of them, right? You want to trade the third one.
Well, and okay, so when you go into this league this year, I mean, I don't know what you were thinking. You probably though were thinking that DJ or whatever you want to call it, like, is going to be doing something. And I don't know, man. I think for me, like, Russ is one of the guys that you want to have actually playing on this team. Because you take Russ out of this, right? You got probably up and down weeks from Love. Now, and then the craziest part to me is this, Mike. You would go from, like, this is why I put him on as a buy. I might just go back to the well. Like, think about what you're doing here. You're going from Russ to Dobbs to not even really net a first.
Yeah.
Can't do it, man.
Yeah, that's kind of a pass for me. I don't mind the Dobbs thing, but this would be like where if I could sell Daniel Jones for that 25 first and then buy into Dobbs as my third quarterback for the second, that'd be where I go, fuck it. This dude's playing like trash anyways. Like, let me just get something. It's my third quarterback. I'm starting Jordan Love. I'm starting Russell Wilson every single week. And Russ is actually playing at a level that's way above replacement. Like, he's actually a bonus to you if you're starting him. That's not really somebody I want to move off of, especially for such a low price.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about another thief too, right? Big contract. And Russell Wilson's going to play. He's not – I feel like people are acting like he's literally going to be done at the end of the year. I don't understand the degree of the hate. I understand not liking Russell Wilson and all this stuff, but he's a perfect patch quarterback price that's giving you far more than that. So I don't think I'm selling him, man.
The Broncos' problems and struggles this year aren't related to Russell Wilson and his play. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, he would have to go back to the old God Seattle days to even have a.
He'd have to go back to Nathaniel Hackett, Russ.
There you go.
Imagine that.
Nobody wants to see that, man.
Imagine that Zach Wilson struggled with a Nathaniel Hackett called offense. Who would have guessed? Shocker.
Appreciate that super chat. Sammy, 10-team Superflex, start 12. Rebuilding. I have Burrow, Tua, Anthony Richardson, and Stafford. Sheesh. Send A-Rich for Amon-Ra and Higgins. I think 10-team I would do it, man.
No.
I tried to move either Burrow or Tua first, but definitely move Stafford.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. A 10-team, like, dude, yeah, you should definitely move Stafford. I think Stafford in a 10-team league isn't going to have much value. If you can move him, fucking move him. Now, A-Rich in a 10-team still is absolutely, could be a difference maker. But, man, Amon-Ra is a difference maker. And I guess here's the question. Like, what do we think about T. Higgins moving forward? Because to, your point, I don't know that I kind of want to defend him, but at the same time, I don't know that production's going to really pick back up this season either. So he's kind of the piece that makes me a little iffy. But in 10-team, I want to get a bunch of these top 20 receivers in a hammer league,
I just think there's other ways to do it. I don't think moving a guy who is already creeping at the 112 of a 12-team startup, I don't think moving off him after 4 games of just nothing but pure QB1 production in that offense with Taylor coming back, moving off him now, I think would be not the right move when you have the other 2 guys. I'd be way more comfortable moving Tua. I say this because I don't want the pylon quarterbacks as much as I want the Konami.
Mm-hmm.
And the Exodia type quarterbacks are the players that I want to bet on, especially come year 2. Like, we have a legitimate Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts situation here with with A-Rich. I wouldn't want to move off him yet. Especially if you're rebuilding. I don't think if you're rebuilding, you should have a reason to be moving A-Rich. I think it's
that's
Tua.
the case. That's the case. Is it in a rebuild? You don't have to do it yet. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I will say though is there is a big difference for this. If this is a 12 team, I'm telling you to completely fuck off. In a 10 team league, you have Tua, A-Rich, and Burrow, and the reality is like, I guess to your point, A-Rich probably will command the most because he's got the rushing upside, and you think he could be a difference maker. But I'm looking to get off of one of these 3 quarterbacks, honestly, in a 10 team, much more so than I am in a 12 team league. So that's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, like Tua and A-Rich are basically the same as far as what they're producing for you this year, just on an AWAR perspective. So we know Burrow's bad and Stafford's like old and probably doesn't carry any kind of weight to get you anything close to like an Amon-Ra or a Higgins. Amon-Ra himself, just looking at WARP though, shit, he's outperforming A-Rich and he's definitely outperforming Tua. So I think I'm kind of with you, Adam. I'm going to flip on this one. I think if I could get 2 of these guys for one of these quarterbacks in the 10 team, even if it is Anthony Richardson, that may be the guy who's most appealing to some people. That's a move I make, and then I just roll out, Tua, Stafford, Burrow, whoever the fuck I need to as my 1 and 2 quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh no, I have Joe Burrow and Tua as my starters.
Oh,
How will I ever get by? Especially in a rebuild when I can afford to sit on Burrow. All right, let's see. Man, holy crap, man! They say time flies when you're having fun. It's been a long day. I didn't even realize we're almost at an hour and a half. We are just cruising on this thing. This is awesome.
Yep.
All right, what do you think? A couple more, and then we'll go.
Yeah, do a couple more here.
Right,
and as a wild Nate Liss appears in chat, imagine that. Look at that guy.
Oh my goodness! If it isn't the spotlight himself, hey man,
What
if
up,
y'all
Nate?
haven't listened to that, y'all got to go check that out. It was
Good time.
I love that episode, man. Love that episode.
I mean, come for the Nate Liss, stay for the Nate Liss bars. That's the best way for me to describe it.
I love in the opening when
Horrible.
I love in the opening when Nate's like, I figured I'd be earlier than the 7th guy. I'm like, well, listen, I would have had you all 7 times, but that's not really my call.
Yeah. Not fair to everybody else.
Let's see. Let's go with this one here. This isn't a question, but I'll put it on the screen. The 2 best ball leagues I joined this offseason started 4-0 thanks to the roster construction series. Appreciate it, guys. Listen, happy to hear it.
Those are about the only leagues I'm having success in, right? Those are the best ball contenders because these lineup leagues are getting my fucking teeth kicked in left and right.
Speaking back to that same show you guys had, it's nice to hear when you help somebody because boy, do I hear when I don't. So appreciate
Only
that.
hear the negatives, right?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Okay. Here's one.
Off the building, not doing enough fantasy.
All right. 12 team. I think that's at start 10, but I think that's Superflex start 10 PPR. This trade just happens. Contender sent J-Mo Dotson in an early 24 first. Rebuilder sent Aiyuk. He got his pick back lineup league.
Trash.
What? This has to be a non-Superflex. Holy, I don't care what it is. This is crazy.
That's bad.
In early 24, like, see, I could talk about 10 team and format, and then like I don't care what an early 24 first. What format don't you like an early 24 first in?
Nothing.
And I want to say there's a difference, right? Like, so I generally don't subscribe to my pick is going to be early, type stuff because we don't know. We're like a
you could get burnt doing that, man.
A stub toe and someone holding in a sneeze away from your team, like crumbling. But if you're getting your own pick back and your team is bad, yeah, it's early and it makes trades like this hilariously awful. This is bad. You're getting
some of the worst shit I've ever seen.
I'm not even high on Jameson Williams. Like I X'd or tweeted, whatever. It sounds like an amateur porn site now, but the artist formerly known as Twitter, I tweeted that he's been a buy for me as his price has gone down. To ship him away when he's beginning to play is also a bad move. It's hilarious. And then for Aiyuk, who's been good, but bad.
Brandon Ayuk's always weird because like his market is so odd. Like I have been a Ayuk stan for longer than I care to admit. Right?
Yeah.
Finally, it feels good to say that because there was a time when it didn't. I'm not even like I'm literally laughing at you. You know, sending you an awful counter back to let you know how different I am on an early 24 first than Ayuk. Then like remove format at all. Okay, I probably would lean Aiyuk over Dotson, but I'm not talking by leaps and bounds here.
Talk about a way to never leverage the fact that you hold a rebuilder's 24 first. Like, how to just absolutely let him get out for the bare minimum.
You just save the dynasty value. Like, you sped that rebuild up 2 years at least.
Like, I've been nice, but even like my nicest trades on giving people back their first, you know, just because I felt so bad for them and because I wanted to win that bad, were like murder compared to what this guy got back.
I will say, even in this scenario, I'm literally thinking like it's racking my brain. I'm literally thinking like, what the hell could possibly have this guy been telling himself, right? So I play in some leagues, and I'm sure you guys all play in leagues where your mind. There are players in Dynasty that either they just do this for forever, or it takes them years to come around to the fact of like, all right, you can't just lean into contending. So, like, sometimes those people, they're not even considering that this is an early first that you're trying to get back. They might be thinking like, it's just a first. I really want Aiyuk. And that's the one thing I'm telling myself. But boy, you talk about lack of self-awareness. That's just crazy. That's the only way I could see it even being a discussion.
Well, they got like that blackmail, you know, like they got that something. They got that dirt on them, right?
They got
Don't let me expose you.
Sean Payton dirt.
Yeah.
This is where like
everyone knows about it. Everyone talks about it.
I'm one of the guys that's like, I see bad trades happen all the time in my leagues, but this is one of those where you're gonna get people riled up, man. This is one of those where it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Someone might pay 3 first for Aiyuk.
We talk about paying 2 for Puka. Pass on this one, man. All right, last question. We'll get to Slashy here. Nico, Ford, Warren, Josh Palmer, 24 first, third, and 2.25 seconds for CD.
I don't know how big
one
the league
quarterback.
is.
Yeah. So how many people are we?
Is that half of your starting lineup? What is happening?
I would hope in a 1 QB, especially if this is like how I feel some of these questions go, where it's like an 8-team league. I would hope to God that's not half your starting lineup because you got one starter.
The thing is too, I'm actually really curious now, Slash, because I don't play in the one quarterback thing, but I play in a couple shallow lineup leagues where it's start like 9, right, and then there's 24 bench spots. So it is a market that is just forcing this up tier. And I think right when you really look at this, now the 2.25 seconds I think are surprisingly just thrown in for like they're nothing. But
just
like,
125.
25 seconds. Sorry. Okay. I'm reading that ass backwards. Even still, it's getting thrown in there like. But what point is, okay, what would you go in this type of a format? One quarterback. I mean, you're talking about CD as a top 5 asset.
10 teams starting 9. There's your format.
So there you go. I'll be honest with you. This is one of those where the context is everything. Because if you saw this on X, let's go do the X thing again, right? And someone's thinking 12-team start 12 best ball. They're like, what are you doing? This is crazy. In a lot of formats, they're saying this is just too much. But you get to one quarterback, 10-team?
10-team start
you
9.
You can have all my Jalen Warren, Josh Palmer. And if you're the 24 first, I'll still tell you for CD. Because in one quarterback, too, I don't know. It's hard to get my mind wrapped around because I don't play in that format. But like CD Lamb is essentially, you know, we're talking about not selling Trevor Lawrence. Like that's what CD Lamb is in that format. You know,
well,
like,
just in this format, so I can say it like this format. The only thing he's given up that's worth a shit, like going back, which I would even remotely care about, is Nico Collins.
Right.
So
former roster clogger, considered wrongly.
Like these late first and 1 QB league, like you can have them. Sure, good luck to you. Even if you do hit on like somebody who's a value, most times they're not even startable in a 10-team start nine. Like they don't make the threshold where you don't have to ask lineup decisions because you just have absolute units at the top that you would never bench unless they were injured or on a bye week. So the Nico part, you're like, okay, that stinks a little bit, but you look at the rest of it, Jalen Warren don't give a shit. The Josh Palmer should never be making your starting lineup in a 10-team start 9, 1 QB league.
Slashy says 10-team start 9. LL, you guys would hate this league. Slashy, here's the thing. I will always love this league from afar because I'll never even get considered.
Well, yeah, you lost me at 1 QB. You lost me at 10-team. You lost me at start 9.
You didn't lose me at start 9, but I'm already 1 foot out the door. You got to do the doorknob close. You got to get me in pretty quick after start 9.
Thomas is the baseball fan, but if I'm not mistaken, that's 3 strikes and you're sitting on the bench, ain't you? Like back to the dugout, son.
Yeah.
You lost me at 1 QB, but you had me at hello.
He never had me at hello.
Ouch. All right. Fair. Nah, as much as I love Nico and how I have him, I think I have Nico. He's crept up to like 1 spot behind Addison. He's above like the Terry McLaurin tier. He was a full favorite all off season and a favorite on Best Ball Breakdown over at Fantasy Points. And
let's go.
I would plug. Let's do it.
Hey.
I actually, I was gonna say, listen, perfect time. Go plug away. Make sure you guys are checking out Fantasy Points. So plug everything you got going on over there. So listen, it is when you go an hour and a half, and I literally didn't think it was the case. I had a ball, man. This was fun. Appreciate you hopping on. Especially waiting for me. Me running late with chaos going on. So worth the wait, I hope.
That's life, baby. Life is crazy. It can be that way. It's no problem, man. I loved it. I don't do AMAs. This isn't something that we do with Full Tilt. This isn't something we do at Fantasy Points. So this has been badass, man. Everyone here's been awesome. We've been rocking with the movie quotes and the
yeah, man.
It's been a great vibe. I've appreciated it.
We got somebody I think is gonna go watch Talladega Nights as soon as they get off of this. So.
And what the fuck are we doing, people, man? Full Tilt? You guys haven't broke 1,000 subscribers yet? Come on, South Harmon. Let's go.
Get over there, man.
Hey, if you want to head over to Full Tilt FFB and get over there, you know what it was? I'll even admit it. It's my fault. I am the reason Full Tilt didn't. I think we potted for 2 years, Jacob and I and Billy, and everything else was growing. And I went, I don't need to worry about YouTube. Like, we're just going to do podcasts and whatever. Boy, was I late to the game. I will say that everyone has been super awesome over with the subbing. I think we were up 300 subs just this year. So everything has been great. We've been able to put some more time in it. So shout out, but it's Full Tilt Fantasy Football, Full Tilt FFB on the amateur porn site X. And, it's what it is. Let's just be real. You never know. You can go into some random post. There's a comment and somebody's dropped their own stuff in there. It's just what it is now.
Elon came and turned it into basically, OnlyFans. I mean, it's crazy.
That's exactly what it is. I'm coming here for like comments over like, haha, Daniel Jones. There's just ass like right there. My wife's wondering what I'm watching. It's just we got to call it like it is. But yeah, but that's Full Tilt FFB. Shout out to everyone. I appreciate y'all. And of course, you want to be locked in to Fantasy Points Data Suite, going to $200 next year, free this week, $50 for the rest of the season this year. Get locked in. It is the most in-depth and Shaboba, I love you, buddy. The Fantasy Points Data Suite.
Shaboba's awesome, man.
It's the most in-depth data suite you'll find in fantasy football. It makes PFF look like they need to do a whole overhaul. I'll just say it outright.
Let's go.
Let's go, man.
Shots fired.
I love what I'm hearing.
Get your college football stats right. Let's go.
Man, love your stuff with Jacob too.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff, man. Yeah.
Jacob's the GOAT. Shout out Jacob Sanderson.
Yeah, I started. I remember listening to him with Drew, and I'm like, man, this dude's pretty good. And yeah.
Oh yeah, bulletproof. I'll say this: Full Tilt has in our off season. If you guys want a reason to go sub, we go on some of the most insane guest runs in the industry. very proud of that. Everyone from Austin Gale to Pat Dougherty and more. So we show out in the off season. So you're gonna want to be sub for that.
Hell yeah.
Love hearing that, man. Mike.
Adam, quickly. Yep. I got one thing before I go. Thomas, thank you so much for coming on. Just get it out of the way. Appreciate all the shitheads tuning in. But pow.
Those are.
Pow.
You
Are
notice
you saying
that?
pow or pa?
Pow. You notice that smudge? It's a pretty noticeable smudge.
Pretty noticeable smudge.
Next giveaway here at South Harmon. This little mini helmet of the Colorado Buffaloes, Deion motherfucking Sanders, Mr. Primetime, Coach Prime himself, signed mini helmet. So be on the lookout for the giveaway announcement. But there's me showing off the little flex right there. God damn, that thing looks good. Look how shiny that is. Oh my.
And that the gold Sharpie, it's interesting. It doesn't look. You get a black matte helmet though. That thing is hitting, man. Thing is hitting. So I'm just hoping this one doesn't end up staying at Mike's house. I know it won't, but not like the Zay Flowers. No, that's a sweet one, man. Mike, you got to put the prime shades on, no?
I get the prime shades out.
All right, there we go.
I got you.
All right, guys, we got the prime shades on. He's gonna keep the shades. Helmet's coming someone's way. Also, I need to reach out again, Cassandra. If you haven't, to get in touch with me on the jacket giveaway that you won. We'll see you guys same time, same place. Mike will probably still be wearing his shades. We're out of this thing. Peace.